All right, let's have a look at our video. It's video linked to a theme, and my theme is walking. And it's walking from very serene natural spaces to very contrived, fast-paced, man-made spaces, and then back again. So we start in black and we end on black, and it's walking. There we go. So that's our novice assignment for this week, editing on a theme using video. In this week's presentation, we're going to be working on a thematically linked video. I've chosen to use walking as my theme, and I found an abundant series of videos on Pexels, and you can too. They're free and you can download them there. You can see that I've organized everything into a folder called Thematic Edit, and all my assets are located in here. So I would suggest you do the same and gather your video there. I also went into this resource, freesound.org, and I located a really nice string section of music that I will underscore my 20-second video with. So first off, let's start by creating a new project in Premiere, and just going to set it to DV, and I'll just call this project Thematic Edit. And where am I going to save it? I'm going to save it out where that folder is, to the desktop, and there's my Thematic Edit folder. So I'm going to choose there as the location for saving my project. And just click OK, and we now have the window open, and I'm just going to go to the assembly window, and we want to start to import our media. And we can do that just by double clicking here and then pointing to our assets folder, and we can take all of it in, including the audio, and just shift selecting and drag, and those files are then imported. Sorry, I just had to click the import button. Another way in which we could have done that, and that's what I thought I was doing there, is through the Finder window, simply drag and drop those files into there. Instead, by double clicking, I go through the import menu. Doesn't matter how you do it, either way works fine. So we have our footage here, and a good thing to do right off the top is kind of preview your footage and see what you've got there. I want to do a progression of walking from natural spaces to man-made spaces, and if possible from morning until evening. So I've got my shots in there. Just by double clicking them, they show up in the preview window. There we go. Okay, so this is sort of the default view that you would see when you first boot it up. I just had it saved from a previous project I was working on. So when you double click your footage, you get a preview of it up in the preview area here, and the program window is where you would look at the edited sequence that you've put together down here in the bottom right. So as you preview your footage, you want to select the in and the out points. Now you'll notice here's the scrubber head that allows you to advance the video, and you'll also notice these things right here which determine your in and your out points. Also accessed by the keyboard shortcut I and O respectively. So at this point I want to determine where I want to bring the video in. And so let's take a look at early morning footage. So I'm just going to expand this so I can see it a little bit better for now. And there's some early morning footage. And just take a look at this. Just want to have them start right there by the sun. And that's going to be our in point. So we mark the in. And then we'll just scrub just to that point, just where they're sort of pulling one another, right there. And that's going to be our out point, marked just like that. The next progression, again, we'll take a look a little further along. I'll have them walking here. And determine I'll just have them right about there. There's my in point, I for in, and have them walk right to about there, O for out. So I'll go through my footage in this fashion and mark my in and out points, and then we'll get ready to assemble it and we'll pick up back then. Okay, now that I've set my in and out points for all of my footage, I want to start assembling it. This piece that I have right here is the one that I want to start out with, the couple walking down to the beach to watch the sun come up. And I would simply drag the video right here into my timeline. I could drag the audio only if the video also had an audio track, or if I just dragged from here, I would drag both the video and the audio, but I just want the video, so I'll drag from here. So just zoom out, just drag this down into my timeline, and timeline's activated, and we can see our slice here as we move through it. You can see them, and they're walking on their way down to the beach. And the next piece, I want them walking along the beach. Here we have it here. And again, we can preview that. I have my in and out points all set. I'm just using the space bar, but you can see right from here where my in and my out points are, and I can drag those to alter that slightly, just slightly changing the in and the out points. Okay, so we now want to drag the video down into the timeline and butt it up against the existing one, and I'll continue that process until all my footage is laid out. So then we want them walking along the beach. Here, double click, drag the video in, and it's video only, remember? And that's them walking along the beach, and now we transition to some parkland, some rural settings. We'll drag that video in. Parkland setting, so we're getting more and more urban in each case. Drag the video only in for that. And here we're getting more and more urban, so we'll drag that in. I may have two copies of the same thing I do, so I'll select that and delete it. And let's take a closer look here. Now we're transitioning into got one more park scene here. As we get closer to the city, drag the video only in, and then get a little more urban during the day. Drag that in. There's another clip. Drag that in. And there's another street scene. Drag that in. And then we'll just end on a very idyllic rural scene again. And we'll drag the video only for that in. Okay, so now that we've got that done, we can just kind of review the video. Mine is much too long at this point. Remember, we want to get down around 20 seconds. And so we've got a few editing functions that we can use to trim things down, besides just taking some shots out that don't quite fit. Okay, so that one seems to be dragging on quite a long time. So let's take a look at what we could do here. So for this shot, I could simply use the razor blade tool and cut a new point coming in. As I follow this up, I can see the horizon line, and I want to break it just before we see the horizon, because the blue sky coming into the shot actually changes the color temperature of the shot. So I'm just going to keep this very isolated until that moment where we see the other couple there on the horizon. And I'll just hold it on that. Use our razor blade tool. Cut what we don't want. Select that piece. Now remember, the keyboard shortcut for ripple delete is Option Delete, and you'll notice that it moved everything to the right of it over. So that's Option Delete for ripple edit. Okay, so we just look at this a little bit more. Here we've moved off the beach into a kind of rural setting, and they're walking along, and then we cut to parkland, and then into the city more, and then we've got these shots of inner city life. Other things that we can do, you'll see here that we have a thing called the slip tool, which allows us to determine where the in and out points are for our video. And so in this case, you can see on the left and the right, we can change where the in and the out points are on our video. That comes in very handy. Still maybe a bit long in the tooth here at the beginning, so we want to cut this back a little bit. Another one that we can use for that is the ripple edit tool. You'll notice I can grab it right here, and I can pull that back to this point in the timeline, and everything else kind of follows suit, just like a train. So we've shortened that opening clip a little bit. We've got them walking, and then we cut to them on the beach, and then it's beach in daylight, then walking on a road. That's a bit longer than it needs to be as well. So again, we could use that ripple edit tool to make something shorter. There we go. We've got this next clip. Moving into the city, so the clips really should be shorter, the pacing intensified. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit there so we can see smaller increments of time. There we go. I'm going to shorten that up a little bit using my ripple edit tool. Again, let's shorten this up. Maybe we'll bring the shot in at about this point. So we pull it backwards and then just cut right there. That's all we need. And then now we're into this long, very long walk here. Let's just take it from here where she's in the screen. Again, we'll bring it back to that point. So you notice it's now starting right there. And then we'll just end it right there. Just a few steps, that's all we need her to take. Just her full body's on screen. Now we're in the inner city. We want the pace to quicken here. So we're kind of following this person's feet. That's good enough right there. We'll knock that back and cut to another shot. I'm just going to go with this. We'll knock that right back to there. We could even take out some of this stuff here at the beginning. That's good. Moving into the next shot. Again, I'm just going to pull that up a bit. So we start right in the middle of the action. Right to there. And then I'm just going to quicken this even more. It's going to take it to about there. And then our final long shot. It just slows things down, gives us a very different, more satisfying, peaceful pace at the end to kind of match that visual. And that's kind of where we'll hang on it. Now, keep in mind, I've used too many shots here. I'm at 32 seconds rather than the required 20 to 25. So I'd probably have to give some serious thoughts about getting rid of something here. Maybe this sort of gritty, out of focus footage is redundant. We've got two pieces of it. So again, I would select the one that I don't need. Option delete. We've removed that. We're cutting down our time. Maybe scale this back again with the ripple edit tool. So we're getting there. Sorry, I'm using the slip tool. That's why it's not working the way I intended it to. You notice again, the slip tool is just showing us those in and out points in our video. If we slip to the left, this is really not long enough to have this tool work effectively. You need a slightly longer segment, that you can see there. The slip tool would allow us to change our in and out points. Currently, our out point is showing the sky. And if we slip this way, you can see where it's coming in. Slip it all the way back. Okay, so we've just got to tighten it up a little bit more, and we could probably find some other footage that's a bit redundant. I don't mind that transition, it's pretty good. That maybe is a bit harsh. It's such a stark change in color temperature. Maybe we get rid of the beach scene, I'm not quite sure. This one's not very satisfying here. It's all out of focus. The main subject seems to be that flower on the left-hand side. and the subject never really comes into focus. So I'm going to remove that piece. Oh, Command Z. Remember, Option Delete for the ripple effect to take. I'm still a bit long in the tooth here. And I'm just going to trim this one back with the Ripple Edit tool. Scale it back. Scale this long walk back. So we just have a very quick pacing at the end. Okay, now we're close to the 25-second mark. So we're still well within the spec for the project, and now we can kind of preview that over here in the program window. That's still a bit long on the front end, so I'm going to shorten that down. Maybe start it there. So yeah, I'm just going to trim that out. Use the razor blade tool there and select the piece I don't want and Option Delete. Now some of these are very nice soft transitions here. And this is a point at which we can bring in some different effects. And so if we look at our effects menu, we've got a number of video transitions that we can use. And there are some dissolves in there. And we're going to use a cross dissolve. So we just drag that and drop it on. And we can see that as it plays, there's a nice little transition that takes us from sun to sun, just like that. Now we transition into the next piece. So we're going to use another cross dissolve there. Drag it down onto the footage. And there we have it. That's a nice little transition there as well. Move along. And I think it needs something there as well. So we'll drop that in. And a cross dissolve to that next scene. And now because we're in the city, I'm not going to use the cross dissolves. It has a dreamlike quality. Now the pace is picking up, things are sharper, edgier, and so once we're into the city, we're just going to go with normal jump cuts. We're literally jumping from one perspective to another. And even that's kind of long. Just going to trim a little piece off of there. And then we can ripple delete it, Option Delete. And then we're into our final piece. Okay, so now we're ready to add our audio. So if we go back to the assembly mode, there's my audio. I drag that in. And let's just see what we have so far. Okay, so I want it to kind of end on that point. So just like the video, we can also use the slip tool on our audio track as well to kind of push it. So let's see how that works out on our timeline. No, doesn't seem to be working there. Let's just, what I'm going to do is just trim it. Just going to trim it back by about this much, and I know that that's cut off the opening transition, but I'm doing that for a reason. I'm just going to Option delete it. It doesn't want to do a ripple delete on the sound for some reason. So we just start it here. Now it's going to start very abruptly. But just like video transitions, we can also put in audio transitions. So if we take a look at effects, we've got audio transitions and we've got crossfades, and I'm going to use what's called an exponential fade right here, just to drag it in at the beginning, and it will automatically dampen the video and exponentially bring in very rapidly the sound to full volume. If you wanted to adjust that, so I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here, and just make this larger so we can see what we're doing. We can bring in audio levels just with that bar there. So you can see we're raising our audio or lowering our audio. There's the normal line. So you can have that peak there a little bit more. You can even customize this line so that it raises and lowers at very particular points in time. It's redlining right now, and that's never a good thing because that creates what's called clipping of the sound. So you just want it sort of hovering in around the red, just punching up towards it every once in a while. So we'll leave that. That's good. And we'll just zoom out of that for a sec. Just want to go back to the beginning. Now we don't need the video. We only need 20 seconds of video roughly. And here we are. We don't need all of this extra stuff here, so we'll just cut it with a razor blade tool. There we go. Delete what we don't want. Maybe I missed that. There we go. Select the section that we don't want, delete it. Again, we can use another exponential fade on the end part there so that it fades it out. Now you'll notice this last video in the preview window. There's an issue with its sizing. So if we look at that, just go back here, you can see here in the preview window that it's not the full scale. So again, to sort that out, we go to Effects, and we want to, go to Editing. Let's double click that piece. Effects Controls. Oh, I got to make sure I have the clip selected. So with the clip selected, we go to Effect Controls, and under Motion, right here, we can see Scale. And we're just going to scrub that and make it larger. And you can see here, there's a very wide format video. And so we want to kind of bring it in there. We may need to adjust its positioning. So position is right here. And let's just adjust that. Preview that footage. That looks good. Okay, and I think maybe we'll have one last crossfade out of there. Under Effects, go to Video Transitions, Cross Dissolve, and then we'll fade out to black in the end. So at the very end of the loop, I'm going to use Dip to Black. There we go. So it transitions us to black. And of course, at the end of that, you could drop a text title in if you wanted. let's take it right back to the beginning. And let's use a dip to black in the beginning. And so we start in black and we end in black. Then comes the sun to light things up.